Hello, and welcome back to Korean Sentence Patterns. In the 10th episode of this series, we will go over how to tell someone the reason for something when that reason has two different aspects to it. So let's go straight into our sentence. Today's sentence is 정민이 형 싫다는 사람이 없는데, which means there's no one who doesn't like 정민. 또 줬다는 사람도 없었거든요, which means but there's also no one who likes him. And this sentence is from 1박 2일, 2 days, 1 night. Title is Sejong the Great Part 3 and Hello Juno's Friends Part 1. And the time is 36 minutes and 55 seconds. So the context of this sentence is that a guest arrives on the show and he's hidden. The members don't know who he is. The guest reveals that he is a friend of one of the members. So the guest is giving hints about whose friend he is. And based off of all the hints he had given up until this point, they all thought that he was friends with Jongmin. But then the friend gives another hint and he says, "My friend is popular with women." And this is why Shiyun, the guy with the kind of reddish hair in the center and the white shirt, he's the one who says this comment. Because they were debating, well, who among the members is popular with women? And they were saying, and Shiyun is basically saying it can't be Jongmin because there's no one who doesn't like him, but there's also no one who likes him. So as you can see, this sentence is pretty long and kind of complex. It has a lot of different components. So I think it's best to break this sentence down from the largest to the smallest components. The two largest components, the first one is 정민이 형 싫다는 사람이 없는데. And that means it's the orange part. There's no one who doesn't like Jongmin but. So that is the first component. The second component is the blue part. 또 줬다는 사람도 없었거든요. And that is because there's also no one who likes him. And as you can see, it's a little... The because is at the beginning of the sentence here because, well, in English, that's kind of how we would do it. But in Korean, the reason is actually at the very end of the sentence. So you'll see what I mean when I start breaking this down into smaller components, but the because part is actually the very last piece of the sentence. So now we will break it down into a smaller component, and we will be talking about the descriptors here. So the descriptor here is 싫다는 and 줬다는. And in a previous video, I discussed how to turn a verb into a noun modifier or a descriptor in the present tense. And this is very similar to this. For example, a verb like 먹다 in the present tense as a modifier would be 먹는. So you could say 먹는 사람, and 먹는 사람 is a person who eats or a person who is eating. That's how it translates. And in this case, 다는 is also a noun modifier in the present tense, but the nuance is a little different. It's either a quote or a general blanket descriptor. In this case, it is the latter because from the context that I gave earlier, you know that Shiyun is saying that he's generally noticed that there's no one who doesn't like Jongmin, but there's also no one who likes him. He's not saying that for a fact every single person in the entire world either doesn't like or likes, neither likes, oh my god, this is confusing. Neither doesn't like or likes Jongmin. What he is saying is that he has generally noticed this. And that's why he uses 다는. So it's just a blanket descriptor. And so you can see 정민이 형 싫다는. That part, it translates to who doesn't like Jongmin. And 좋다는 just means who likes him. Our next part that we will break down is 는데. And this part is the blue here is 사람이 없는데. This 는데 is actually the end of the first clause, like the first part of the sentence. And what I mean by this is that if you see what I meant when I broke down into the two largest components, you can essentially take this sentence apart and make two different sentences out of it. You can say 정민이 형 싫다는 사람이 없어요. 또 좋다는 사람도 없어요. That just means there's no one who doesn't like Jongmin, period. And then there's no one who likes Jongmin, period. So this sentence is just a combination of those two different sentences, and to combine them, you need a conjunction, a connector. And for English, that's but. In Korean, this one is 는데. And if you know some Korean grammar, you know that there's another way to say but in Korean, and it is 지만. So you can say 사람이 없지만. But in Korean, I find that 는데 also means but it has a softer, less strong nuance than 지만. 지만 is a bit stronger, like a bit stronger with the comparison and the contrast. So because 는데 has a softer, less strong nuance, I find that it is more commonly used than 지만. So generally, whenever I want to say but in Korean, I almost always use 는데. I hardly ever use 지만. And I do that because that's also just what I hear. When I listen to people speaking Korean in real life or on TV or whatever, I very rarely hear people say 지만. So I reflect that in the way that I speak Korean. So our next part that we will focus on is also. And there are actually two different words in the Korean sentence that are contributing to the meaning of also. The first word is 또. And 또 means to or also. It also means again, but that's not related to this sentence. But it is a standalone word. So it's not attached to anything. It's just one word. But the 도, which 사람도, also means to or also, but this one is not standalone. It must be attached to a noun, and it is a particle. So by a particle, it's kind of like 는. 는 is the subject particle. Do is like a particle, but it has the meaning of to or also. The next part that we will focus on is because. And this is what I mentioned earlier. Because is the very last piece of the sentence in Korean, and in English, it's the very first piece of the sentence. And the because, the part that has the meaning of because, is 거든, and formally it's 거든요. So 거든 simply means because, and you're giving a reason, which is unknown information for the listener for a known situation. And what I mean by a known situation is that somebody probably asked you a question before you said the sentence. Either that, or you have some sort of reason for telling them this information. Like maybe there's a confused look on their face or something. So, for example, in this example, we know that because of the context, everybody was debating why the guest's friend is not Jongmin. And because they're talking about this, they're all giving reasons why they think the friend is or is not Jongmin. That's why Shiyun ends his sentence with 거든요, because he's giving a reason, and they all know what the situation is. It's not like you can't just walk into a room and say this sentence. There has to be context. So now we see our template. The template of the sentence is a verb plus 는데 plus 또 and another verb plus 거든 or 거든요. And you use this when you want to tell someone the reason for something when that reason has two different aspects. The first part, the verb with 는데, is the first aspect of the reason. And the second part, 또 verb 거든요, is the second aspect of the reason. So here are our variations. The first variation I have here is 식당에서 먹고 싶은데 또 집에서 나가기 싫거든요. And this just means because I want to eat in a restaurant, but I also don't want to leave home. And like I just mentioned earlier, this needs to have context. You cannot walk into a room and say this sentence. Everybody will be so confused because they're like, why is this person giving me a reason when there is nobody asked a question or nobody was confused about anything? So there needs to be context. For example, maybe you're talking to your friend and you're at home and you say something like, oh, I really want to go out to eat. And then the friend's like, well, why don't you go? Why don't you go out to a restaurant? And then you can say this sentence. I want to go out to a restaurant, but I don't want to leave my house. So that's kind of the situation where you would use this template. The second variation for this sentence is 새로운 신발을 사야 하는데 또 돈이 없거든. And this means because I need to buy new shoes, but I also don't have any money. And similar to the previous sentence, you need context. You can't just say this sentence. So somebody has to maybe ask you something, or maybe they're like, yeah, there has to be within a conversation. So a person might ask you, why are you still wearing those old shoes? And then you can say this sentence. Because I need to buy new shoes, but I also don't have any money. And that's basically it for this episode. I hope this was helpful for you. And if you like, you can watch another video. Good luck with your studies, and goodbye.